It's a lovely summer's day outside, so I'm going to take my toys and go play on the grass. I've had something in my mind for a while now. I've been wanting to make a modular monster, a monster that's made up of parts that you can change, interchange, all that kind of thing. And there's a toy in this box that used to be my favourite as a child, and surprise, surprise, it's the inspiration for this piece. Hello, I'm assuming I explained everything in the intro. It was definitely not filmed at the end of the entire process. This is some Super Sculpey Firm. It's my favourite type of clay. It's been sitting in my clay box for a couple of months. I hope it's not dry as fuck. Would you look at that? It's drier than my nan, who's been single for decades and lives in the Sahara and has in fact died in the Sahara and has been laying there in a post-apocalyptic Sahara for centuries. Superman could form diamonds with this stuff. Now for this process I need clay and I need magnets, and right over there I have a drawer full of magnets that I've never used for anything. Fun for all the kids, but magnets are fun. There's no denying that. In the olden days this could have been considered magic because they were stupid back then. I heard somewhere that if you were to bake magnets that they lose their magnet powers. They're not as magnetic, so I want to put this to the test. Firstly, I'm going to form some clay around a magnet and bake it, see how that turns out. Also, I'm going to cover the magnet with a very thin layer of clay to see if that still works. So let's see how that goes. I bake all of my clay in this tiny little air fryer on my desk, by the way. It's great. You should get yourself a tiny air fryer. Right, here we go. Hold on to your butts. That's from a film, that is. Yeah, that's not very good. Not very good, is it? Not good enough at all. So, I decided that I will not bake the magnets and I will not have them covered by any clay, just to get the strongest possible connection. And that works, as you can see here. It's pretty darn strong. Sculpting. Whee! Every sculpt, not every sculpt, but a lot of them start with aluminium foil, or aluminum foil to the rest of the world. I'm going to form it into a nice tight ball. I'll even use a hammer on it for fun. And then I'm going to cover the thing in bacon bond, which is also the same stuff I used to knead this clay into submission, which took hours. I rubbed some of this bacon bond into that dry ass clay, and 2 hours later my hands are red raw, but there's some workable clay. I have ordered more clay, it's just not here yet, it's taken a while. With the foil ball well and truly sticky, I start forming the clay around it, which is still quite dry, to be honest, but I managed to get it done. And once that's formed into a nice ball, then we have a basis to start this modular monster. I really don't know what I'm building at this point. I sort of make it up as I go, which is probably quite clear. Now, with all this recklessness going on, there is two things that need to be uniform, and that is the ports where the magnets are going to be. And I'm using this wooden disc as the larger port and pressing it into the clay, so I know that everything that connects to this point has to be this circumference. Science, or more likely engineering, probably. Now, if you were John Hurt investigating a downed alien vessel, you'd avoid this thing like the plague. This thing here is going to be the main port. This is going to be the biggest neck port, I suppose. I want this model to have two different sized ports. One big one and one slightly smaller one. So anything that's smaller could potentially fit on the bigger one with a connector. You'll see as it goes on. Makes more sense. Here is the obligatory arty shot for you film snobs out there. It's actually just a jar of isopropyl alcohol that I'm going to use to smooth all of the clay after I've sculpted it. And I do this process constantly. It's nice, it's fun. And my god, Dan, is that the best shot you have? Look at that. This goes on for a good 10 minutes. This here be a texture roller, a homemade texture roller. It's just an old paintbrush with a bit of clay on the end of it, baked. And rolling it over the thing to make it have a nice bobbly appearance. I don't know how much of this is going to be showing through once the thing's done, so I texture everything just in case. Ding! Originally I was going to have this to a magnet set up here for the big port, but I decided against it. Eventually you'll see it changes, because it would limit the amount you could turn the piece that was in there. It could be either up or down. Now this bit here is going to be the second port, the slightly smaller port, and to measure all of the things that will fit into this port I'm going to use an acrylic rolling pin, just because it happened to be there and it looks like a good size. So assuming all of the parts I make fit on the end of this acrylic rolling pin, then they should fit into these ports. Easy. Now the astute among you may have noticed that the front port is larger now. It's because I carved it while it was still warm. It's very easy to carve polymer clay while it's warm. Ready to fit this magnet, which is a bigger one. It needs to be stronger for the heavier pieces at the front, or at least that's my logic. And now that we've got that over and done with, I've added 2 more ports, and that's going to be it. That's going to be 5 ports on this thing. 1 large one, 4 small ones. That's the basis of this monster. I'm winging it. I told you I was winging it. Much like this guy, the best busker I've ever seen. I'm not even being sarcastic, I loved him. I gave him all my change. I'm going to add some detail to this thing, and I'm just going to shut up for a bit. Rest my voice. I think that was long enough. Here, this is what I've got. I've got like a mad ball looking thing. Do you remember mad balls? In the olden days, there were toys. Rubbery things. This one isn't rubber, it's clay. For those of you that haven't been paying attention. Would be nice if it was rubber though, wouldn't it? Now this is just the start. This is the body or the head. I'm not really sure what it is, but it's just part of it. I need to join this to the ground. And I envision some kind of plant, tree trunk type body attached to the bottom of this thing. So for that I need wire. I fashioned the wire into a loop type structure, almost as a makeshift stand, which doesn't really work, but it will do at the end when I attach it to a base. But in the meantime, I'm going to fatten this thing up with some aluminium foil, and I'm going to do that with my incredibly masculine hands. Look at that grip strength. I'm drilling a hole. Now, I went for a bit of a quandary with this. I'm trying to decide whether I should have this heavy ball resting on the base or the body part here or not. And while I try and make my mind up, let me tell you about something. Oh, hello. What a lovely day. Today's video is sponsored very kindly by Craftsy. Now, what is Craftsy? Craftsy is an online community of creative, like-minded makers where members can find endless inspiration, advance their skills and discover their new favourite hobbies. Over 2,000 inspiring classes for makers of all skill levels with step-by-step instruction in more than 20 categories like knitting, sewing, painting and cooking. Now, I myself am a big fan of cooking. When I'm not making videos, I like to cook. Literally, when I'm not making videos, that's all I do, is cook my dinner, then make videos again. So that's what I look for on Craftsy, cooking things. Cooking is just crafting, but with food. Craftsy is your online resource for all things creative. Now, Craftsy very kindly offered a promotion. The first 1,000 of my subscribers to click the link in the info below will get a full year of premium membership to Craftsy for just $1.49, which is, I'm not even sure what that would be in pounds, but it's not much. So I'd just like to say thank you, Craftsy, for sponsoring this video, and thank you to all of you. Let's get on with the video, shall we? In the past, I've been known to use wooden coasters as bases, but I don't have any wooden coasters left. But I do have these flat wooden discs, big old bag of these. Don't remember when I got them, but I'm going to stack these up, glue them together with super glue. Oh my god, I'm so sorry. I've just had a big old pot of couscous. It's repeating on me. This is a disaster. Can you smell that? Roasted vegetable. Couscous and seafood, is that a normal mix? It was prawns and mussels and couscous. Couscous is very dry like sand. It was almost like I was scooping up a seashore and shoving it into my mouth. I enjoyed it, but it's very dry. Anyway, you can see what I've done here. I've done a very similar thing to what I did with the ball at the beginning, but this time it's like a spiry, swirly thing. I made an agreement with myself that the base would not just be a base. Now, for example, all the pieces are going to be going on the top part, but I wanted to make sure I didn't neglect this bottom part. So I'm trying to add as much detail as I can, starting with this sort of rib cage thing. Then I'm going to do a big old bulbous belly, and so on and so forth. Got a few folds under the belly there, a few folds here and there, you know the drill. And also I wanted this thing to sort of be rooted to the ground, almost like it's part tree. I'll explain what this thing is later on. I've forgotten to even sort of say, hey, I'm making this. You don't know what I'm doing, you just see me making this thing, you've no idea what it is. Mind you, you would have seen the thumbnail, so the detectives among you, you would have got it. But I'll give a description of what this thing is while I'm painting it, which will be coming up later, after the thing's been sculpted, which makes perfect sense to me. Those roots were quite a lot of work, but I'm very happy with the end result. It looks a bit like a flowy skirt going into the ground. Anyway, next step. Step 1 is to attach the ball to this. Step 2 is to place this on the dashboard of a truck driver's cab and have it nod away. I've connected it with some clay, but I still don't trust it. I do not trust it, not one bit. I'm going to reinforce this with some more twisted wire and then cover the twisted wire with some cos clay, which is flexible. 3 is always better than 1. Unless it's your wife who invites the rather large next door neighbour over and says, well, you're the one who wanted to spice things up. Unless that's your thing, in which case more power to you, and her, and him. That's slotting in there rather nice. Quite satisfying. That's what they said. I'm sorry, that was a bit below me, that last joke, question mark. I don't want to be one of them channels. Anyway, I'm going to cover these wires in Cosclay, and hopefully that will give it a little more rigidity. That's what she said. Now this thing needs a little more spine. That's also what she said. And I'm going to stop there. I'm so sorry, that's it, that's enough. There's a reason these double entendres are so popular. It's because they're so easy. You can make anything sound filthy. Anything. Leave a comment, an object, anything you like. We'll make a double entendre. And I think with that spine, once it's been blended in, everything's been textured, that's the body done. And that's it. The main bulk of this thing is built. Now it's onto the fun bits. They said it couldn't be done. Much like when I decided to take up parkour at the age of 41. Powerful stuff there. Anyway, it's time to stick the magnets on the thing, and I've been looking forward to this. Looking forward to this since the beginning of this video. Because I've no need to bake this base anymore, this body anymore, I can attach the magnets in with a tiny little blob of super glue and make sure that they're all facing the right way. And to do this, I had a spare piece that I would keep with me at all times and make sure the magnets connect to it. It's quite easy to figure out how to do. It's quite easy to also make the mistake and put it in the wrong way. So I was doubly careful. These magnets look the same, no matter which side up they are. Not like those old giant horseshoe magnets in cartoons. Don't have any lightning bolts coming out of these ones. Also, I have to mention that at this point I wasn't entirely sure that these magnets would hold up the weight of any sort of clay parts that I was going to add. Any sort of appendages or limbs that I was going to make. I was just going to sort of make them and hope for the best. And you'll have to keep watching to find out how that went. And before I start making the interesting bits, in my opinion, I'd just like to show a little clip of Salute this year. I went to Salute. Anybody else go to Salute? Leave a comment below. Had a great time. Met some lovely people there. If you did come up to me and said hello, thank you. Made my day. I bought some lovely stuff. There were some YouTubey people there. I.e. Pete the War Gamer, Midwinter Minis, Team Fielding, Rogue Hobbies, and Bill Making Stuff was also there, which was a huge coincidence. So in conclusion, I can't recommend the event enough. Hope to see you there next year, assuming we're all still alive then. You don't know for sure, do you? Right, it's time to make some bits, and I'm going to start with the bigger port, using the wooden disc as my measuring device, and covering the larger magnet that I'm going to be using with clay. I have a little base here to work off of, and then I make a long neck thing, and then I add lots of detail to that neck thing, and then the moment of truth. And this was a wonderful feeling. I'll be honest with you all, this was lovely. It worked. And it works pretty darn well. And because it's the one single magnet and not the two magnets, it can be turned to any angle you like, which is good. Now I wanted to make a little piece to go on the end of this neck that would be the same size as all the other ports. And so I made a base bit, measured it against the acrylic rod, and then got some inspiration from my daughter, no less. So what was the inspiration for this monster bear?
Ghostface from Scream and that monster. The one with the big mouth and the big tongue.
When did you watch Scream?
I don't. I never.
Sure you didn't. Before you all get up in arms, she has not watched Scream. I'm pretty sure if she did watch Scream, she'd be running around stabbing people as we speak. She's a great little sculptor, that Beth. I made a similar face, much like the Edward Munch Scream face that the Scream horror franchise was based on. It's a relatively simple thing, but effective, and it fits on the end of that neck just perfectly. You can even have it upside down if you so wish. Now, let's get going. I'm going to make an arm now, or a pair of arms. Arms have always been quite difficult. Well, not the arms, but the hands. So I'm going to get the difficult hands done first. What I do is I make the arm, beef it up a bit with some muscles and stuff. Then, by the way, I'm baking this as the steps go on, because it's a lot easier that way. Bake it for about 5-10 minutes each time. That way you don't ruin the bit you've already done. Then make a basic palm shape. Bake that. Drill some holes in it. Then, with some little bits of wire, make some fingers. And before you bake the fingers, cut up some tiny little pre-baked spiky bits like this here. Cut them in half, jam them in the end of the fingers, then bake the fingers, then take the baked fingers, stick them in the holes, use some clay to build up some mass around the fingers and the palm to blend it all in, add some details, and Bob's your uncle, Fanny's your aunt. You got hands. Hands are hard. Hands are hard. And then repeat all of that to make another arm, assuming you want two. Now, the moment of truth, attaching these arms, see how they look. And honestly, I think they look pretty darn good. As that second arm goes in, it does swing down a bit because of the weight, but that's fine. Because when you take that off and put it in the top bit, when there's a little slightly more horizontal surface, it's perfectly fine to rotate any position you like. Up high, bro. Next, I made some eyes that look wholly unimpressive right now, but they'll look much better by the end. Stick around to see. Then I made a sort of lamprey mouth using the same technique I used on the fingers by sticking the claws in. I did the same thing but with lots of teeth. But that is for the bigger port, so I made a smaller lamprey mouth for the inside of that, for the smaller ports. That is wholly satisfying, that. It's very hard to get across just how satisfying that snap is. And let's see all these bits together. And now, to make a kind of fleshy tongue for the smaller lamprey mouth, I'm using some wire, twisting it up, not neatly, in a sort of scruffy fashion, then covering it in bacon bond. And it doesn't look great unpainted, but trust me, when it's painted, it looks pretty good. A heat gun is all you need for this. And there you go, got a little tonguey thingy sticking out of the mouthy thingy. Looking forward to painting that, I can tell you. I'm having real fun making these parts. I don't know if you've noticed, as did my brother Bill making stuff. We don't call him that. We call him Bill, but apparently he's got a YouTube channel. He made this little birdie, beaky looking thing, a head, to contribute to the parts for this this monster. Thanks, Bill. It looks very good. And here, all along my shelf, are the parts that I've made and that Bill made. And the good thing about them being magnetic is that you can keep them all up here on display. Now let's break them down. Painting. Painting. Right, it's time to paint this mother. And while I paint it, I'll be showing the images of it being painted. That's how videos work. But I'll also describe what this thing is. Now, I think it was the last video I promised that I would divulge my new planned world for this channel. But I'm not going to tell you what the world is or how the world started just yet. That'll be the next video. I'm still working on that. I'm actually writing it down like a professional. But this is a creature from my new world, and I can tell you all about this guy or girl or thing. And I can do it in a bit of a dramatic voice. Earth in the future is populated by horrors. The reasons for their coming will be in a later episode, as I said earlier on. Anyway, these horrors are as abundant as wildlife is to us. They are everywhere, and they are commonplace. And the remaining humans left on this planet have come to consider them the same way we might consider a fox or a rhino. The first time anybody ever saw an elephant, it was terrifying. But after centuries of trying to live in a world populated by horrors, they're no longer scary. They're just dangerous for the most part. Not all of them, mind you. Not all of them are as dangerous as the others. That'll come later. Anyway, this creature here is an ape. And not an ape as in a primate type ape. Ape as in a mimic. Something that imitates something poorly. These creatures were born when the event happened, the event that will later be described to you in a future video, but they were basically formless, indistinct sort of blobs of matter or meat, and they were there to primarily adapt by copying or mimicking or aping everything they could see. Now, as the planet became less and less populated, the people were killed off. The animals were also killed, and these things are carnivores. They don't touch plants. And so the planet, actually, as it stands, is much better for it. It's a farmer's heaven. These creatures make great fertilizer when they run out of food and eventually die. Anyway, the ape started copying the creatures it could find, the plants, the people that it did see sparsely, and then eventually when all those things were gone, they would just copy each other. A copy of a copy in a sort of kaleidoscopic fashion, becoming worse and less legible as they went on. But they mimicked nonetheless, continuing to be stranger and stranger, and that's how we end up with this thing, with what looks like testicles on its chest. Now, I know that's a very rudimentary, very vague description of the world this thing lives in, but all that will be coming. I just want to make sure I get it word perfect. Now, I need to paint the parts to match this thing, so I'm going to use, as long as the sockets are the same colour as the joints of the pieces that have been attached, it should blend in just fine. And while I'm at it, I'm going to add some UV resin to the lens of this eyeball to make it pop. Then fry it with a bit of UV light. And one last thing, I wanted to add a bit more sort of texture to this thing. So I want to add hair to this very boring neck piece that was one of the first things I built just as a tester. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take jute. You can get jute anywhere. It's like basic string or rope. And trim that. Fold it in half. And then glue it down with some Fabri-Tac. This took ages, by the way. Bloody ages. Layer upon layer. I'm sure there's a much easier way of adding fur to this thing, but it's what I had at the time. I decided to glue it on in little coils like this, so I felt like I was doing twice as much as I normally would have if I give it a little snip here. Which I think kind of worked. Kind of doubled the efficiency, if that's the right term. Still took bloody ages though. Now let's take a look at all the pieces painted. Roll VT. While I was at work one day, hiding out in the back room, I thought I'd do a sort of biro doodle of this creature. I'll do like an etching. Hold on. Spider sense is tingling. Bloody customers. Anyway, I brought the book home. Here you go. Here's the monster. Drawn with a Bic biro. It's Ape. Ape is what I called it. Stupid name, I know. Here are some of the parts. That's the head that Bill made. The claw, the tongue. But I also designed some other parts. And I was thinking that if you, the viewer, would like to see some more, then let me know in the comments. We could make a video that is just making extra parts for this monster. And in the future I will make more modular monsters, more bases for them, more bodies, that kind of thing. While I've got you there, I just want to say a big thank you to the brand new patrons, and they are Lewis Mackenzie, I'm not reading anything, I promise, Phil Holland and Alyssa Jones. Thank you very much for joining Patreon. You're the reason I can continue to do this, as you and all the other patrons that very kindly chuck a couple of pounds my way every month. I'm looking to one day do this full time, and I'm hoping that day comes soon, to be honest, because I can't work in that sweet shop anymore. Can you hear that floorboard? So creaky. And it's thanks to you lot that is a possibility. You know, I've never really aspired to do anything in my life, but this is an aspiration. I think that's the right word. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. Like and subscribe, and here's the showcase.